Digital monkey used to be more expensive than your house.
Here's what you're gonna do, and you're gonna do it right now. You're all gonna buy a bunch of CryptoPunks.
You won't believe how much money I lost on this JPEG of a dog.
We're gonna be looking at the rise and fall of NFTs, starting with
Top 5 most expensive NFTs ever sold. Number 5 is this picture of a sporty man. $7.67 million. Yes, for a JPEG image. Number 4 is from the same collection, but this guy now has a hat too. So he sold for $11.75 million. Number 3 is this video right here of a moving 3D sculpture. Let me be very clear though, not the sculpture, just the video of the sculpture. And this went for $30 million. And then number 2 was actually made by the same artist and is a collection of his work over time, $69 million. Very nice. And then finally, number 1 is a piece of digital art called The Merge, which sold for, I can't believe I'm saying this, $92 million.
So if we look at NFT as a Google search term, it peaked at the very end of 2021 and now it has completely collapsed and flatlined. Now in my time becoming an art history minor in college, I've learned in the art world people spend millions of dollars on some garbage by Jackson Pollock and whatnot, and they just want to store value in the art. But at least with something as bad as that, you have like the physical piece. But with these NFTs, the people are spending millions of dollars for a video of an art piece. It's not a physical art piece, right? I just feel like there's some disconnect there where it's not going to retain value, which is exactly what happened to these NFTs.
A digital monkey used to be more expensive than your house until the entire market collapsed overnight. Whatever happened to NFTs? Non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, dominated crypto in the early 2020s, with everyone from your average crypto bro to celebrities and brands getting in on the craze. They generated novelty by prescribing a unique digital owner to each token. This novelty meant that an image of a funny cat would sell for hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions of dollars. There was a big problem with these tokens because outside of the soaring financial value, there was no real physical value. You couldn't display them anywhere without getting tormented by detractors who would steal the NFTs by copy-pasting them. Without any physical market value, the financial bubble soon popped. Now NFTs that were once worth thousands of dollars are lucky to fetch a tenth of that.
Now I think the closest thing in the art world is the banana taped to a wall. So some artist actually fairly recently taped a banana to a wall. Now he owns the idea of that art piece, so it works in the way that anyone can tape a banana to a wall, but if you're like an actual art museum and you want the title and the actual rights to his piece, you gotta pay him a bunch of money. So I'd say this is the closest thing, right? Because anyone can tape a banana to a wall, but it doesn't count as the actual piece. So somehow his retains value, so I guess it would translate, oh, the NFTs, yeah, anyone can screenshot it, but I own the actual digital code. And I just find both to be dumb propositions, right? I got into art history because they said, hey, you have to take 4 classes in a subject. I was a communications major, and I'm like, well, what do most people do? They were like, art. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do some art. But part of why I went into it, I'm like, why are people paying so much for this garbage? You know, why would someone pay millions of dollars for a banana tape to a wall when I can do it? And it's kind of similar to that NFT. So it's like, who owns the specific idea, or who owns that specific chain of code that you have to pay Ethereum for? That's where people try and add the value. So according to CBS News in our beautiful AI overview, the banana taped to a wall sold for $6.2 million. I'd have to see like 10, 20 years later if it's actually going to hold its value, considering that it's not an actual piece, right? You just own the idea that banana has molded away from the original piece. So sure, NFTs won't mold away, but anyone could screenshot it, like right there. Anyone could just copy and paste your image. So it doesn't really hold special value like other actual art pieces. Now here's what happened to Justin Bieber's NFT.
Justin Bieber bought this Bored Ape NFT for $1.3 million freaking dollars back in January of 2022. That bad boy's now worth $68,000. Ah, that burns.
That's such an insane difference. It lost 90% of its value, but that was NFTs. They were all just so hype-based, which I guess like with art, it is kind of hype-based, but in the art world, you have name recognition. So with the top 5 sold NFTs, it was artists, but a lot of these Bored Apes and like pixelated PFPs, it would just be some like random company. You know, they make a collection of them and try and sell them off. To lose 90% of your value is ridiculous, which is similar to what happened to Steph Curry.
There was also another time Steph's spending money went horribly wrong and lost him over $100,000. No, remember these monkey profile pics? They were hyped up at one time as the next biggest NFTs, so Steph blew a bag. He not only got this ape that has blue fur and zombie eyes while wearing a suit, he also got an ice sculpture of it. Then Steph of course made the ape his profile pic and posted an NFT group chat to let everyone know he joined the club, cause his NFT was worth $180,000. Until that trend eventually became something nobody cared about. prices of all Bored Apes dropped, and nowadays you can see the best offer Steph's NFT is even getting is only $22,000. That's nearly a $160,000 loss.
You know, the most surprising part of that is that it's still worth $30,000 today. I just don't see how it was going to retain value. Now, Steph's so rich, like maybe it was just fun for him. Oh, let me post it. Let me get into this new thing. It's just, I can't imagine a world in which, 10, 20 years from now, that would hold value. I understand the stock market, right? If I buy a stock, it's going to retain value because there is an actual company with an actual product, with actual employees. Or if I buy an art piece, at least I have a physical art piece with maybe an artist with some sort of name recognition. But if I buy one of these Bored Apes, it's like an internet trend from 2021, right? Like back in the day on the internet, Charlie Bit My Finger was a huge trend, and I think they even made that into an NFT. That's not gonna last. Trends come and go, right? That's not gonna retain value as like some little digital line of code, which this guy learned the real hard way.
Oof, I feel bad for this guy. When it comes to NFTs, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But less than a month ago, someone bought this Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT for more than $1.1 million, and then sold that same NFT for an astonishing $1 million loss this morning.
You don't find that suspicious?
What do you think he was thinking?
I don't know.
Well, some of the comments were guessing he was doing some sort of tax evasion. I kind of doubt that. I'd have to assume it just lost its value, and he's like, you know what, let me just try and cash out. That's what I did with Dogecoin. I lost probably a grand or two in Doge. I bought it at 33 cents and probably sold it at 10 cents, which looking back at it, that was totally stupid. I bought it on the Robinhood app, which means if I buy it through Robinhood, I can't purchase anything with Doge. It's not even a currency at that point. I'm just following along the graph. Like, what am I doing with my money? That was so dumb. And here's someone I can relate to.
You won't believe how much money I lost on this JPEG of a dog. You can see here I bought it 7 months ago for $6,100, and just 2 months ago I sold it for 0.25 ETH, which is around $275. So I made a $5,750 loss on this picture of a dog.
Man, that's just brutal. That's the thing, like, who made the image of the dog? Is that a famous artist, or do they just hire some dude on Fiverr? They just pick up someone, okay, make a collection of stuff. We're gonna tweet about it. We're gonna try and make it go viral. We're trying to bring in all the hype so it goes up. Now, I've been kind of negative towards NFTs. Here's someone arguing for them.
So a lot of people in my last video were saying, instead of paying for a $2 million NFT, I can just screenshot it. That's not exactly how it works. See, if you do own the NFT, it will say that it's owned by you. And the difference is that I can sell my NFT for more money, while you just have it as your profile picture.
So I don't know if that's rage bait or just a troll. They're factually not wrong. Yeah, they can sell it for more than me, but by and large, the price they bought it for when NFTs were hyped up, they cannot sell it for. So yeah, I can get the picture for $0 and sell it for $0. You can buy your NFT for $1 million and sell it for like 50K. I don't know. I think I'm winning this proposition. Now, here's how Mr. Beast was convinced to buy NFTs.
Gary V, just out of nowhere, just calls me and he's like, I got like 30 people to call, hop in. It'll be the best decision of your life. Just get in. I was like, okay. I just joined the call. And I just see like Logan. There's like all these very successful people in this call. And Gary's just like, everyone shut the fuck up. Here's what you're gonna do, and you're gonna do it right now. You're all gonna buy a bunch of CryptoPunks. I was just so pulled by his like conviction that I bought a bunch. I had some that like 20, 30x. So then I rolled the money into VeeFriends because Gary, same thing, called me. He's like, VeeFriends. I was like, I don't fucking know, but last time I made money, sure. So I basically sold them all and moved the money into VeeFriends.
Yeah, I've gone down a small Gary V rabbit hole on his NFTs. He seemed to be one of the masterminds behind pumping them up, and he started his own. But Mr. Beast laid out why everyone is into NFTs. He can 30x his money, and you'd say, okay, that's the same for stocks. If you buy a stock, you're trying to make money. But the thing about a stock is it's an actual company with an actual value, right? And there's people who have interest in the company who don't own the stocks. Like, think of McDonald's, right? People work at McDonald's who aren't shareholders. People buy McDonald's on a weekly basis who are not shareholders, versus like an NFT. Who likes looking at an NFT or has any interest in an NFT who does not own the NFT? Nobody, really, like by and large, nobody, right? At least with an art piece, people are interested. People will go to a museum to see the banana taped to a wall. As dumb as it is, as stupid as it is, and I don't even think it should be worth millions, people will at least show up for that, especially with physical art pieces that last. Like, it's a physical thing in a place that people have interest in outside of owning it, versus like in the NFT space, it's just, how can I own this and how can I print money? And there's no actual interest in the core item itself. And like Mr. Beast said, oh, I don't understand it, it just makes money. And I don't know if he's being silly, because I believe Mr. Beast is is actually a YouTube genius. This guy has taken his channel from the start. He's gone insanely viral and turned it into one of the biggest media companies today. So I'd have to think Mr. Beast is more analytical than that. Maybe he's just trying to be funny, but that probably is the thought process of a lot of NFT investors. Oh, number goes up, I'll buy. It's not about like the actual value proposition. Do they have an actual company? Do they have products? Do they have employees? Do they have quarterly earnings coming out so I can see what's going on in this business? No, it's just like a chart and a singular website that goes up or down. And here is Gary Vee saying 99% of NFTs will fail.
I don't know about NFTs, Gary. I'm worried about those.
You shouldn't be. You know, not every sports card, not every piece of art, not every sneaker is worth something. Just like we talked about during that summer, 99% were destined to not be the most profound thing. For every Jackson Pollock and Andy Warhol and Michael Jordan rookie card in collectibles, there's 99% of things that don't matter. Right. In the hype and excitement of 18 months ago, people assumed every single one was going to be, but we've obviously become more educated, and that's the ebbs and flows of every market. And this viewership knows more than anybody on earth the ebbs and flows of supply and demand.
Now, for that argument that like 99% failed, I remember hearing the same stat when I was trying to make it as a gaming creator on YouTube. Oh, 99% of YouTubers fail. And you look at that, dang, it must be impossible to succeed. So many people fail. But if you actually look at it, and you go to the 99% who failed, they didn't upload consistently, they had no thumbnails, they had no editing, they had no commentary sometimes. It would be like a 1 hour unedited gameplay. Oh my gosh, YouTube doesn't like me, the algorithm bad. So sure, 99% of YouTubers fail, but let's take the percent of YouTubers who uploaded consistently, they were dedicated, they tried to edit, they tried to have an on-camera presence and good lighting. What percent of those fail? Maybe it's like 90% of those fail of the dedicated, but then 10% succeed. So I don't even like that 1% stat, because if you look at the 99%, a huge chunk of them are putting forth no actual effort to attain YouTube success. So it's just an unfair statistic. So I think the same goes for businesses, but with NFTs, it's different. There's no substance behind them. So I get the comparison he's trying to make, but I think there's a big difference in the reason like why other things fail. And on top of that, I find it hard to believe that even 1% of NFTs 10 years from now will be worth more than they are today. I find that almost impossible to believe. And here's more on that death of NFTs.
We can finally say that NFTs are officially dead. The blockchain has become a much maligned talking point after various organizations cost investors hundreds of millions. Unfortunately for crypto bros, the bad news won't stop coming. A crypto analyst reported that 95% of NFT collections they reviewed have depreciated to a market value of 0. Even top NFT collections they analyzed are exponentially lower than their projected price, with one item selling for $18 compared to its $13 million floor price. We've known how useless these things have been for a while.
So I guess we'd have to go to what constitutes a failure, because sure, 99% have not gone to 0 yet, but 95% have gone to 0. And then of those 5% that haven't gone to 0, some might be like Justin Bieber's NFT, where they lost like 90% of its value. Like sure, it's not a full-blown bankruptcy, but it's essentially a failure. Now the article is from 2.5 years ago, so I'm gonna just assume it's gotten worse. Now here's someone arguing for the value of digital art.
Meme coins or NFTs? NFTs in terms of digital art. If you study humans and you study rich people, art is upstream of everything. The average billionaire who collects art might have 5 houses. They'll have 10 times the value of their house in the art. Some of these people like Xcopy, Beeple, CryptoPunks, these things are trading for millions of dollars. So we're now proving that blockchain can store massive value that doesn't need a bank or a warehouse with guns. This is really interesting, because if it can store the value of art, it can store lots of things. I still believe the most valuable block space that will ever exist will be a single piece of art.
That question is so funny. It's like, hey, do you want a 100% chance of your investment to go to 0 or a 95% chance of your investment to go to 0? It's like, yeah, I guess I'd rather take the 95% chance. They just make an interesting argument. For about a year there, you know, the blockchain held a ton of value, but it just doesn't really appear to be sustainable. Maybe I'll be proven wrong one day and digital art will be stupid valuable. I just don't see it. People want the physical art. I can't imagine art collectors by and large are going to want to buy digital art pieces, right? They want the fancy art. They want the artist's name. They want to flex it at their mansion parties, right? And if you have an NFT, what are you going to do? Pull out your phone and, oh, look at what I got? Like, no one's really trying to do that. So I can't imagine it blowing up in value like this Jack Dorsey tweet.
This is hilarious. Last year, a guy bought a tweet from Jack Dorsey as an NFT for $2.9 million. Last week, he decided to put it for auction for a target price of $50 million. He even promised to donate half of it to charity. At the end of the auction, the highest bid for the NFT was was $280. When asked, he said he decided to hold on to it until a better offer comes in. But interesting enough, he was also just released from prison in Iran, so he might be trying to collect some cash to get out of the country. Maybe he'll just take what he can get. What do you think?
Wow, so bro essentially just burnt $3 million. He's just going to hold on to it. And I don't even blame him for not selling. Like at that point, you might as well just hold on to it and cope at that point, right? Because if he sells it for $280, it's just going to get mocked. So he'll just hold on to it and say, oh, if I didn't sell, I can't lose money. It's ridiculous though. And you don't own the tweet, right? I guess if you were to buy the Jack Dorsey account and then you would have ownership of the tweet, but there's not even value in that. Maybe if you own like the first YouTube video, like you actually own that video itself and you could put advertisements on it. So when people came to see that video, you would make money from it. That would make more sense because there's actual interest in the video itself outside of it. Like sure, there's interest in Jack Dorsey's first tweet, but people can search up Jack Dorsey first tweet, click the link and see the actual tweet. They might not even see your NFT. So like there's literally no value in that, even though there is some interest in what the first ever tweet is. These NFT losses are absurd, and click here to see insane crypto losses. Now you have reached the end.